I think a lot of people that are watching this are probably going to be like, why didn't you correct him for trying to chase that dog over there, right? Getting back to the very first thing that I said, currently at this exact moment in his training program, so 5 days into it, Teddy, go. My sole focus is on getting this dog to start having a good time and getting this dog to start viewing being out and about in the world, being around new people, being around whatever, everything. I'm trying to get him to view this stuff in a different light right now because it's something that he's historically not been able to do. What's up, guys? David with Miracle Canine. We're out here at Edgewater with Teddy. Teddy is a new board and train. He's been here for 4 days now, I think. Maybe 5 days. You got your son, but he's been about 5 days now. And Teddy is a really interesting case that I want to try to highlight quite a bit of his journey here on the YouTube channel. And the reason why I think he's an interesting case is because Teddy's a dog that's done a significant amount of training with like every camp of training you can imagine. So Teddy did a full behavioral modification board and train with one of our local competitors to us, who does e-collar training. This dog is highly trained. This dog knows all of his obedience commands. This dog listens extraordinarily well when you ask him to do different things. This dog has done a one-on-one program with I want to say a more balanced training company, right? The first competitor I was discussing is very heavy-handed with the e-collar, very much under direct control at all times. Very much not super in tune with like the overall state of mind of the dog. So the other company was more of a balanced approach, but still very obedience-centric. So your more traditional balanced trainers, when I say that, I refer to trainers that they're focused on keeping the dog like engaged and happy and like all of that kind of stuff, but it still is very much like solving behavioral issues through management, through obedience commands, right? So like your dog can't get into the trash can if they're holding place in the other room. Your dog can't bite your guests coming over the house if they're in a downstay, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? So very little focus on teaching the dog to make independent decisions. Very little focus on actually correcting unwanted behaviors, things like that. And then the last thing they've done is they worked with a vet behaviorist where the focus of the vet behaviorist was putting the dog on a ton of medication, right? Which all that did was numb Teddy up like crazy and put him in a position where he was still rehearsing all of his unwanted behaviors. He was still getting into all sorts of shit in the house. He was still trying to bite his owners. He was still very reactive to people coming in the house. He wouldn't jump into cars. He was aggressive towards his groomer recently, all that kind of stuff. He was just a more like suppressed version of himself while still doing all of those types of things. And as always, we didn't film any of his first 5 days because it was the weekend and Paige was not here. But from when I picked up Teddy to basically yesterday, I think yesterday was when we really started to hit a bit of a turning point with him. I have not asked this dog to do one single obedience command. Literally not one. Not a single obedience command have I asked this dog to do. I've had him wear his e-collar every single day, but I have not used the e-collar one single time with him. And literally for the first 3 days of his program, I brought him here to Edgewater, took him to the local park. I took him to my house to go hang out with my dogs. I took him everywhere with me and basically just had him on this flexi lead or had him just loose in a room with me while I was getting work done or whatever it may be. And like, he wouldn't move. He was just like frozen, pancaked on the ground. As I was walking, like the first time I took him here, there's tons of distractions and stuff, and he was just glued in a heel position, right? And he was just, honestly, like, we weren't joking about it, but like we were talking about, like, Teddy was just like miserable. Like, he just looked like a dog that just like had like zero freaking joy in his life and just looked like the least happy dog that you could ever see, right? Perfectly well behaved, right? Like he was listening to all his obedience commands, or I should say he was anticipating that I was asking him obedience commands, which is why he was just laying down or in a heel position, but there was just like zero joy out of him, right? And again, we're going to be highlighting so much of this dog's journey because we are going to be doing things so much different with this dog than 99% of trainers out there would ever do, right? My sole focus right now is not on training this dog. My sole focus with this dog is on getting this dog to start finding some joy in his life, and not only finding some joy in his life, but as he starts to open up, not managing him through obedience training, but just teaching him to make better decisions on his own. And I think what's going to be interesting is as I micromanage this dog less than he's ever been micromanaged before in his life, we're going to find that the amount that I need to actually correct him for things is going to be so much less than I think anybody actually thinks. So what we're going to do, we're going to start walking. Obviously, you've seen as I've been talking, he's been sniffing around, rolling in the grass. Beautiful. This is stuff that he literally hasn't done for the last 5 days, right? We're just going to kind of let him do his thing, hang out, see what we get. And we'll see if he can get him playing with the ball a little bit here. His mom said generally at home, that's one of his favorite things to do with her is play with the ball. So we're gonna do a little bit of that, and we'll kind of see what we get. So come on, bud. So to talk a little bit more about the behavioral issues his owner's experiencing at home. So he has like very erratic bipolar behaviors. So he has bursts of energy where he gets all excited for them, but then that's contrasted with when he gets nervous of something in the house. He'll start getting very reactive towards his owners, growling, showing his teeth, snapping at them a little bit. Never done any serious harm or anything, but very much acting on those fears, right? And essentially disciplining his owners in those contexts, right? He develops patterns very easily, right? So he very quickly started realizing that going in the car meant he was going to daycare, which is they were taking him to a traditional daycare. He really didn't like going there. He wasn't finding any value in going there. So he stopped getting into the car, right? That started turning into, he started realizing when the groomer would come, if he got in the car, they would groom him in ways that he didn't like. So he stopped getting into the grooming table. And they started realizing that when they would go to put him into the crate, he would protest there, obviously, and he would start getting aggressive over getting him into the crate, right? So all of these things are things we need to address, right? We obviously need to make sure that if we need to get him into the car, we can get him into the car. If we need to get him into the crate, we can get him into the crate. And we need to coach his owners through how to effectively do so, because he did the same thing for me the first couple of days where he would not get in the car and I had to just use firm leash pressure and say, hey, dude, sorry, we're getting in the car right now. And he protested it the first couple of days and now he gets right in the car, right? So there are things that the owner needs to do better to help show him quickly, hey, this is not optional, right? But past that, we want to make sure we're changing some of his overall perception of some of these things in the first place so that we're not fighting this uphill battle of we're constantly forcing him into these situations where even if we can get him to do it, he still despises the thing we're trying to get him to do, right? So additionally, he bit 2 of their dog walkers. So their dog walker fired them. And the reason for that is because he started developing the association that when mom would go take him over on a leash to the dog walker and hand the leash to the dog walker, he would have to go for a walk with them, which he was not enjoying doing. Again, the first 3 days that he was here, his walks were him just looking miserable and depressed, just auto-healing right next to me, having zero good time on the walk, right? So that's what we're changing right now. We're getting him actually enjoying being out and about in nature, right? So that we could still show him, hey, you got to go with the dog walker. You got to go with whoever it may be. but it's not gonna be such a terrible time when we get there. And every dog's a little different, right? Like obviously with him, my focus right now is like, dude, go be a fucking dog, right? Go do dog shit, right? Where if I had a dog I was working with that was way too loose, right? And they were completely out of control because they wanted to slingshot all over the place and this and that, I would be focusing more on the control, right? I don't have so much of a problem with a dog like that of them enjoying the walk. I have trouble with getting them to focus in while on the walk, right? So that's why we're using him as an example, because it's like a little different, working with a dog that's on just like the opposite end of the spectrum here. Now Teddy's gonna be with us for anywhere from 4 to 5 weeks. Like I said, my whole goal this first week is just let him be a dog, let him hang out, let him learn to start liking some of these things. We are obviously going to hit a point where we need to start adding some control back into it, but I'm only gonna do so once I feel like I've solved that kind of emotional hurdle that I'm trying to get past with him. I think it's really important to just like look at like, what is the issues of the dog that you're working with in the first place? That's kind of a point that I'm trying to push across here. You see, we've passed dogs, we've passed people, we've passed kids, we've passed bikes. Like, those are not problems we're struggling with. We're not dealing with like ridiculous impulse control. We are dealing with a dog that is struggling mentally around these things. That's it, right? That is the problem that we're having at this stage in the game with him. So we've got to work on that issue. Where again, if we were dealing with a dog that was struggling emotionally and becoming extremely reactive, like we have to solve the impulse control side of things in addition to that state of mind side of things, obviously. Teddy, you gonna play with this ball today? Teddy. There we go. We gotta get him away from this guy, though. Yeah, right. Look at this guy. Teddy is just having the freaking time of his life right now. Now, places where we are going to start implementing some control into this, one big one is going to be through the game, obviously. So, Teddy it's over there. Come on. Teddy. Teddy. Clearly is a very excitable dog. Teddy. You're gonna clothesline yourself. Oh my God. See, this is the problem, right? Teddy, we gotta go somewhere where we're not gonna get tangled up on everything. All right, so what we're gonna try to do here, we're gonna try to start getting him engaging with the ball. This is something that I've tried to do every day since he's been here. I've not really had much success with it. This is actually probably the best that he's done so far as showing interest in it. So we're gonna start adding some of this into it. Hopefully we can get him picking it up, engaging a bit more with it. You can tell as he's starting to get into this kind of prey-driven state of mind, he's starting to become interested in like dogs over there and things like that, obviously. So these are all gonna be places that we have to start adding some control in eventually, obviously. But we've got time in order to do so. Now, understandably so, I think a lot of people that are watching this are probably going to be like, why didn't you correct him for trying to chase that dog over there, right? Again, getting back to the very first thing that I said, currently, at this exact moment in his training program, so 5 days into it, Teddy, go. My sole focus is on getting this dog to start having a good time and getting this dog to start viewing being out and about in the world, being around new people, being around whatever, everything. I'm trying to get him to view this stuff in a different light right now because it's something that he's historically not been able to do, right? Once I have achieved that and I could reliably say, Teddy, come on, that I've got him liking this stuff. This is not a concern anymore. I've started to shift his emotional state of mind because again, right now, this is the first time I've ever got this dog to be able to chase this ball so far, right? If The very first time I finally get this dog to start open up and chase this ball, I hammer him for trying to chase that dog over there. What do you think is gonna happen? It's gonna reassure, come on, Teddy. It's gonna reassure him of all of those concerns and fears that he had in the first place, and it's gonna get him to start reverting right away back into, Teddy, start reverting back into that state of mind of just shutting down, come on, buddy, and no longer even trying to start finding some value in being out and about. So again, we'll get there, right? I could manage that for right this second, obviously. And then as I start establishing some rules to the game, because if I can get this dog really chasing this and enjoying this ball, right, and starting to pick it up and not having that energy constantly dying with it, what I could do is I could start establishing my prerequisites for the game too, which are, Teddy, making sure that he releases it right away, right? Making sure that he brings it back to me. Making sure that he'll listen and respond to basic commands while I'm doing the game with him. Making sure that he'll be able to hold a command while I throw the ball. So practicing really good impulse control, right? All of those things, Teddy, will come very quickly, which will then put me in a position to be able to address that kind of stuff. Teddy. Good job. Let me see, that was the longest that he kept it in his mouth for. So again, everything's being done to kind of build Teddy up a little bit here. And then as we build him up, we'll start realizing where that threshold is, where we need to cap it off. Okay. Nice. I think he's getting tired. But this is great. Again, like, we're not starting with a dog that is like through the roof ball driven, that will overcome all his stresses in the world by chasing this ball, right? We're starting with a dog that was very, very shut down and unwilling to do anything, that we're now finally able to start getting to have a good time here. Teddy, 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 go. This is hilarious. Teddy. Okay. There you go. Good job, bud. Teddy. Teddy, come on. Okay. Teddy. Teddy. One more. Teddy. Go. Like collapsed over for it. Good job, bud. So today is this is an abnormal training session. This is not a like, hey, you guys should be doing all of these things. This is how you teach your dog to do all of these things. This is a training session to just highlight the importance of, you could do all the obedience training in the world, but if you're not working on shifting that dog's perception over time of some of these things they struggle with, you're fighting an uphill battle. You're only going to get so far with it. And we're only 5 days into this, right? So you got to recalibrate your expectations based on all of the different scenarios that you're going to run into with your dog. You've got to be able to calibrate your expectations based on where you're at in your training program. And again, where we're at in our training program right now is working on the emotional state of mind of this dog. And again, we are going to hit a point where that's no longer a problem. He's finding joy in all the things we want him to find joy in, but we are going to hit a point where he is uncontrollably finding joy in those things. And again, that's where we start to, Eddie, come on. That's where we start to reel it in a little bit, right? As he starts becoming too confident, and you see right now, he wants to go say hi to those people over there. He wants to go say hi to that dog over there. We need to start showing him time and place with those types of things. But when you're dealing with a dog like him, who has had, I don't want to say bad training, but he has had a lot of training done already up until this point, that has been focused more on kind of squashing him overall. We've got to fix that problem and focus on, again, the root cause of things before we start adding some of that back in.